Last week, Joe Biden turned in his final inflation number. This is the inflation he will be handing to Donald Trump. Annualized, it came in at 5.7%. Food prices hit another record high in Biden's dying days. Now, that's up from 3.8% the previous month, and it's the highest inflation in 17 months. Meanwhile, producer prices, which are the prices companies have to pay, jumped nearly 20% annualized. Now, that's a very volatile index, but it's also one heck of a number and the highest since the darkest days of Bidenflation. Not since Jimmy Carter has a president handed off such a mess of an economy. Now, I'm old enough to remember 18 months ago when Paul Krugman announced, quote, "The war on inflation has been won at very little cost." Of course, that was false, fake news you might even say, with ongoing inflation being a major reason CACL's lost. Well, that along with open borders, men in girls' room, and funding Ukraine instead of North Carolina. In fact, Biden's inflation had been getting worse every single month since last June, when it was flat on the month. So we had June at 0, July and August at 2.1%, September and October at 2.8%, November at 3.4%, December at 4.5%, and now January at 5.7% annualized. Spot the trend. Now keep in mind, these are all official numbers, so shenanigans like the Bureau of Labor Statistics pretending that health insurance dropped 18% under Biden, or they don't count interest costs, which have soared, these all mean that the reality on the ground is much worse. Of course, our tax-funded left-wing media pounced on Biden's numbers to attack Donald Trump. The New York Times positively giggled how, quote, "inflation is Trump's problem now." CNN literally copied their headlines, since I guess they use AI now. The Guardian went with, quote, "inflation picks up speed after Trump promised to bring down prices." So it's Biden's inflation, but it's Trump's fault. So what's next? Brought to you by Unchained.com. Biden was steering us into a near-perfect repeat of the 1970s double inflation catastrophe. What caused the 70s, of course, was that government never cut spending. So Congress in the 70s would not let go of a single dollar of the warfare welfare state that was bankrupting us and is still bankrupting us. It only ended when Paul Volcker's Fed manned up and hiked rates to 19%, causing a series of catastrophic recessions that absorbed the first half of Ronald Reagan's presidency. This time around, the Fed will not help, since our banking system is so flimsy that additional hikes could wipe out hundreds of banks, meaning it is up to Trump. That means tax cuts and deregulation to boost production, deporting enough migrants to drop housing costs even as blue-collar wages rise, and above all, the DOGE-driven cuts in federal spending that not only help inflation, but could permanently bend the curve by defunding the activist industrial complex that drives the welfare warfare state. Biden put us on a knife's edge on inflation and recession. Trump will need to move fast. A new episode of the podcast is dropped, rounding up all the daily videos. Check it out at petersanons.com or on all the major podcast platforms. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.